topics. And then, i-post na ako siya later through sa eLearn. I already posted 5, I think I will upload the 5 e-learns, and then I will upload the 6th one pag mahuman lang ko sa akong citation sa kada pictures kay na ako'y problema gamay sa citation. So, but nevertheless, I'll finish all this week and i-upload lang ako ang pinaka-last PowerPoint, lesson 6 today. And on Thursday, I will discuss the extension of lesson 6, which is more on the traffic sign signals and markings. So that will finish all the lessons from 1 to 7 or 1 to 6. And then next week, we'll have more exercises. So I may not be available for everyone. You will have the exercise per class. I'll give you time to solve it. Ang ganito na ko ang class for the consultation. Kung na mo ipakonsult sa analysis for the lessons. But I'm expecting some studies have to be done in application sa Excel. Okay, Ramesh?
Okay, ma'am.
Kanang isa lang ka link, Mish, din butang man dito ang folder sa CE26 na section E3 para dito na ko matanaw.
Chat lang na ko isan sa imo, ma'am, katong imo akong
Ako ran tagaan mo sa link kita raduha, then katong mga attendance, pwede nimo ibutang pud sa link, Mish, kada meeting og ang records para magamit. Pero sa exercises, ako lang to gimuha kay when I verify kung nakasubmit gyud and ana dito sa imuha ang atong evidence para sa din ha. Okay. I will not make a Google form na kahit ang dili daghan atong i-maintain, just one folder link and that's it. Okay. Sige. So I'll start the lesson for today. Ito ninyo ang material discussion for lesson 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, super. So lesson 5 is actually a continuation of transportation studies and surveys. And this time we'll focus on a couple of areas and then I'll proceed to some speed control and traffic control applications. So we made mention last time, when we have infrastructure systems and programs implemented for transportation engineering application, there are factors to be considered in its implementation, namely the one who will use it, which is related to demand, and the one that has to be constructed or put in place to be either infrastructure systems or program that's actually supply, and the one who's gonna organize all these things or plan out these things are the engineers, the government, the processors, enforcers, and professionals like us. And then we know that the system is a relationship between the nodes, which is the position where you are placing everything in terms of origins and destination, the demand of traffic, and the network involved in this system. So ang atong pinaka-core is the mobility of people, passengers, fleet, logistics, informations, and any services will be made through the location, through the infrastructure, and the flow of traffic in a given area. We already discussed that there are two types of roads, rural and urban road, road right-of-way set up, and we define each by its elements, be it the travel way, the median, the sidewalk, the shoulders, etc. So now we are proceeding with different transportation studies and surveys. So last meeting we discussed traffic volume, spot speed, and then today we will discuss a little bit of intersection, parking, level of service, and travel time and delay. So previous meeting naka-ingon day ko nga I am sharing you this one. Na-realize na ako na this is PDF man day ako ipadala di man day PowerPoint. So when it comes to PDF, dili ka nimo maklik ning blue. So if you want to make sure na makuha nimo ning link, just write the keywords. Let's say for example, CTRE. Then you can write traffic volume topic and then PDF ang format. So it will give you the locations of this one. Ang uban guy kay ako as I'm putting it in place na sa akong handouts kay I'm placing handout in PDF sa inyong e-learn as well. And then spot speed mo gihapon, okay? You write spot speed and then PDF and then CTRE so it's important to have the keywords and ang type. Here PDF tanan walay PowerPoint. So that way back na mo reference material if you want to look at some of the discussion in this area of application. So today we start with parking study and survey. Usually parking is a necessary element of a road network especially when road users will bring their very own vehicle, no? So vehicle, pwede car, pwede motorcycle, or a, a bicycle, or even a truck, no? So mga great application. So some parkings are vertical. So it's a parking on a building, or allocation of a building parking. And then it could be horizontal, no? Sa ground lang siya. So walay vertical application. But kung sa ground siya, duha po siya open and sheltered. So kung open siya, it's basically horizontal parking on a surface, walay cover. But horizontal parking na cover or shelter, meaning naa siyang cover kung mag-ulan, mag-snow, so it's still horizontal but naa siyang shelter. Now, parking machines are made of this, which are for parking, monitoring, and evaluation on the road. Say, for example, kani kay parking on street along the side of the sidewalk. So, notice ninyo na siyang parking box, and this parking box will actually control the systems panihinan o gitawag na to parking meters. So, all parking meters will be allocated para katong mag-park sa usa ka space or area will have to pay, no, sa iyang parking. So pay parking is usually permitted kung ang parking is allocated for parkers. Parkers ang users of parking space. Let's say on a given weekday or a given time of the day. So that's a permission for parking. Those without that permission or not authorized to park will have to pay na dayon. So you have ticket machine, more siya ATM, or the regular this one, which is really a box type system. Now, parking can also be non-fixed, no? Vertical and horizontal parking, sometimes dili siya fixed. Could be nga, kani type scaffolding, metal framing, siya nga parking. This type of parking is usually used for temporary or maybe a certain period of time. So this is like scaffolding sa building, except nga the framework here is made for parking space of vehicles. You can see this in some parts of Manila, in some parts of Makati area where there are sections na heavy ang traffic and parking is needed. And of course, sa mga area nga na mga coliseum or mga gym or something, when there's a concert and so forth, these are being put in place and then later on dismantled. Okay, parking can be done in a survey with a surveyor. Pwede manual, pwede po electronic. So this one is electronic type. Iha lang tanawon ang summary sa evaluation sa parking permit, whereas this one, it will use the survey sheet to note on the parking vehicle and the license of the vehicle. So usually parking are done through license number. So note nimo ang license number and then ang type of vehicle. And then unsa nga duration siya nagpark kana a given slot. So that's how we look at parking per given manual application. Now, parking can be of different types. This is sheltered parking on a building, maybe on a basement or ground floor. This is open parking, pero naa siya shelter cover na roofing. This is open parking without such shelter cover. This is what we call as horizontal parking or horizontal open parking. This is actually 90-degree na parking, so front to front ang inyahang facing. This one is front to front, but this is diagonal parking. And then napoy parking sa cars, which are really allocated for parking bay area na may aisle para makamaneuver ang truck pag turn movement niya right or left on a given aisle of a parking space. So for truck and trailer parking, the only concern is the length of the space because it will be dedicated for a long cargo freight application of a truck. So dako iyahang space requirement. For bicycle and for motorcycle, gamay ra inihang parking space. So you can really just allocate parking in terms of number by narrow spacing, but kanang regular ihang width but narrow ihang length depende sa length of the vehicle. Now for trucks, trucks are not only concerned of the back, no, kay cover and then yang pag-turn, yang gidala nga cargo and pag-turn, but rather also the frontage of a truck. Some trucks require a bigger width of frontage, so therefore the space for parking in terms of width and size should be also designed in such a manner that makasulod ang isa ka truck. Now for some motorcycle parking indoor, usually the concern is ang ang imong alignment of parking with respect to the aisle, because if it is open parking on an open area, walay problema pag maneuver, but inside like this one should have a bigger aisle spacing for the design of parking space in a given area. Okay, parking usually is handled in terms of mapping out where most likely people will park, especially in a location like a city. So sa city, normally people go to a given location for a specific purpose. Maybe from home, they will go to the office or to school or institutions like hospital, church, and government office. So those are most likely the where people will go most of the time in the day. So therefore, you allocate parking for that area. Some people will shop or market, so there should be parking space for shopping and market goers. And for such parking application, ang consideration yun is ang parking space. Where will we place our parking area? Primarily because if we will not allocate parking, then a lot of people will be parking on the road or on the street. So that's what called as street parking. And then, of course, some people may be paying for the parking on a given private garage. That is what we call as off-street parking. Off-street parking would mean gawa sa dalan, but they have to pay. So off-street paid parking or private garage parking. So in some allocation of buildings, the requirement of the building code is that parking should be allocated per building area. So for example, if you have three-story building and ay mga rooms of about 15 per floor, so you're expecting 45 occupants in a building, let's say a hotel. So therefore, you're expecting that the hotel goers will be having their car, or if not, they will travel by public transport. So if assuming na most of the uh, transient resident in that area will not have cars, then therefore your allocation will be hotel parking. Yang kaugalingon nga valley for parking, or yang kaugalingon nga shuttle van from airport to the hotel. So that's one parking consideration. But most likely, for example, in condominium and apartment buildings, usually you count the resident of a given apartment and condominium, and that's where you allocate parking for each resident. Now, in the National Building Code of the Philippines, we note fully that if there is such a number of rooms, a number of levels of the building, a number of occupants, you have to allocate parking space for each. Each commercial center, each residential area should have parking. That way, dili magpark ang tao sa dalan but on their own private garage or the allocation of the building itself. So kung commercial complex like a mall also have their own parking, because otherwise they will not be allowed to operate a mall when they don't have the appendage of the parking. So parking space is appendix to a building. So sama sa libro, if you have a book, in a book you have the main chapters, and then after the main chapters, after sa references, you have the appendix and the annex. So similarly, in that sense, a building is the main structure, ang appendix niya is ang imong parking space. Now for areas like institutions, hospital, building sites of government offices, this requires parking. Even in school campuses, this require parking. So the allocation for parking depends on the user. So you look at then user in terms of activity and the supply. So for example, these are activities based on a school zone area or commercial or industrial complex. So this matters a lot because you look at unsa mga choices sa ilang mode. Is it active transport, walking and biking? So therefore, wala kay parking kailangan sa walking, but you should have benches and sitting area for people. But if they have vehicle like a bicycle, you have to allocate bicycle rack, bicycle space area. If motorcycle, then you place motorcycle. If trucks and trailers, kay logistics operations sa isa ka ports and harbor or airport, then you have to have space for parking in an airport or a pier airport area. If you have, for example, industrial sites, ang imong logistic operation is cargo and fleet, then you have to have a parking space for your trucks and trailers. Those things matter a lot in terms of the choice or mode of transport they are using and the space requirement for the design of the parking space. Now, on the other side, to supply, you look at then how many are going to park, who are gonna be parking, what's the type of vehicle that will be allocated for parking. Is it a four-wheel vehicle? Is it a bicycle, a motorcycle? Then you look at also how many are demanding for that space. Is this for our personnel, our students, our workers, or the administration, something like that. And also the design of space. Should the space be a covered area, open parking, and how many spaces will be allocated? And if there is payment, pila ang atong payment scheme para mabalik ang profit sa pag-build sa parking area. Those things matter a lot in terms of parking supply and demand. The balancer there is the occupancy. How many are really using the parking space? Occupancy means pila ang park every given time frame in a day, and for how long they will be using that space. Of course, we will intend to put in place parking without monopoly para tanan makagamit. Maybe the only monopoly is katong mga presidents sa school, and they have to have their own parking space. Or maybe doctors or parking space for ambulance near to a clinic or hospital, or parking space for a fire truck, especially if there is a fire or this is allocated for fire application. So those are important matters to look up if this is a fixed parking area for certain vehicle or transient parking area for people who are just going to come in and park for a certain time and get off. So we call that occupancy. Now, parking survey sheet have different forms. You have the simplified one. You look at how many are parking vehicles, how many hours they are parking, that is the duration, and then pila ka percent sa overall ang kaning vehicle na na-park ang area. So there are definitions such as parking duration, vehicle number, pila ang plate number niya, vehicle hours, pila ka hours yung nag-park, average duration, so normal average time sa mga nag-park na vehicle, maybe 30 or 1 hour. Pila ka percent ang nag-overtime, meaning usual nga to 1 hour lang, pero na nag-overtime 3 hours, so that's a monopoly. Or maybe to resolve monopoly, pabayro ni mo siya dako kay it's a paid parking area. And then space hour of parking availability will be kung naisa ka slot of parking, let's say parking slot A, how many times is parking space A is utilized over time for a daytime parking or a nighttime parking sa usa ka mall o sa ka shopping center, etc. And then you get, of course, the utilization of percentage of parking. So how much is the total space of parking sa akong isa ka parking area, pila ang gaka-utilize over time for a certain week, certain day, certain time of the day, etc. So those details matter a lot. And in particular, you can look at kung nga type ang mga vehicle ang nagpark sa imong area. Maybe cars, vans, etc. And pila ang nagpark legally, meaning naka-include sila sa isa ka parking slot or parking space, and illegally. Because when you are saying illegally, duha ra na ang aspect ano, either mahal imong parking fee nga gihatag, so they park illegally, or kulang imong parking space and they don't have any accommodation, so they park on the side na lang, just illegal parking in sense. And then of course, ngay sometimes mingon tag loading and unloading of trucks. In some market space, usually mo on trucks or vans, and they will just load and unload goods and services. So it's not really parking overtime, no? Gamay ra ang duration kay mag-unload lamang sila goods. So do you allow that? Do you not allow that? Because if not allowed, that is you have to place enforcement for penalties of those time of being loading and unloading, so mga space nga dili pwede. Now, if it is regular application, so you might say, yeah, allowed ta mag-park, but for certain time of the day, para di ta makahamper sa traffic sa market area. That's good. And then, of course, noted na in a bus station or bus stop area, parking sometimes is made because mag-wait siya passenger mo sakay sa bus, boarding and unloading of passengers. So those things matter a lot in terms of parking survey sheet. Now, below is still another form of survey sheet, and we'll tackle that as we go along sa discussion on parking. Now, parking analysis can be done in spatial sense. You can have a map or a figure showing the location of your study area, maybe a certain city, and then you allocate asa mga commercial area, industrial, institution, residential, and so forth, so that you will know the overall picture kung asa possible magpark ang mga tao. And if you do that, you can also mark out area on the left. You can see which area are prone to be parking area for most people who are on the road. So you mark that with blue, and these are maybe dedicated for on-street parking because it's possible, it's still allowable to do parking over time on the road. But maybe in the future, dili na siya pwede kay mo congest ang dalan, maka-hamper ang parking on street sa mga moving traffic. So maybe later on, you can improve the system of your parking in a given location as necessary. So another example of results for analysis is general census of parking for bicyclists. Usually in some parts of Europe and some parts of areas nga ang ilang prime connectivity from the house origin sa home towards a bus station or a terminal of a railway is kailangan sila mag-bike towards the area. So usually kung na particular railway station, mag-expect ka na parking for bicycle and motorcycle or even cars, no? Pero minimal kaya mag-cycle, mag-park sa car. Kaya usually kung mag-park ka sa car, matukas sa train station, park ka sa imong car, dapit sa railway, mahal man siya kay kung 8 hours ka to and fro sa work, mahal ang parking sa usa ka space na car. So what usually most people do is take their bikes or motorcycle, park it on the railway station kay mas minimal man ang fee, and then ride connecting trips towards your office sa city center. So they will take the railway or the bus. And then pagbalik sa hapon, they will go get off the bus or get off the train and then ride their bicycle or motorcycle. So in that sense, you have the inventory here showcasing as a pinaka-biggest volume of traffic in terms of parking in an area with respect to railway station, parking of bicycle or motorcycle, etc. Now, parking utilization can be made into bar charts or charts showing sa mga area, for example, sa usa ka campus nga gamay og parking space, so nag-red. This is the number of people who would like to have parking and yet wala sila ay parking space. And then the blue ones are building areas which have parking but ma-accommodate iyang parking because the number of space is greater than the number of the demand. So these are balancing application in terms of investment for parking in an area. Okay, so this is a study of saying how many is the supply for parking and how many are demanding for parking. And this one is another space allocation, but this is more on pila ang space nga gaka-use kaayo o dili gaka-use. So let's say I have an investment, I'm an operator of parking space. So na ako'y building, for example, for parking, 3-story, and I have more than 300 kay 100 per levels per floor levels ang akong parking. So kung doon ko sa mga condominium area, usually mga condominium centers or residential areas, they will really need parking space. So I could rent out that space, each level for 100 each. And then I will give them monthly economic value for rentals, which is sulit para sa mga parkers. So if I do that, I could easily see kasi gusto ga park always in the lower floor compared to upper floor. That's parking utilization. And then I will know fairly asa kasagar ang mga tao mag-park. Dito ba sa pinaka-entranceway or middle aisle or sa end of the space area. Usually people will use the area nearest to the stairwell of the parking area kay mas easier to get in and get out. So those are the things in relation to utilization. How people use parking space. No? So for example, sa campus sa Xavier, we have utilizations of space. We did study parking before in the main campus. So we look at parking in the gym area, the museum, the Locus Hall, the church, SBM front and back, engineering, and then of course we look at parking in the parking at the front of the church. So there's a space for parking up front in the church. This is area for emergency vehicle like ambulance and whatnot. There's also an area sa clinic side, very special parking. That's only for ambulance and for kana mga health-related emergency vehicle. And then ako'y parking nato sa loading and unloading of goods and services dito the canteen area. It's not regular parking, it's in loading and unloading man siya. And we have parking on the side of the church, at the back of the church, dedicated for people who are personnel of the campus, administration and personnel, and of course, katong mga church sa hapon or sa time when there's a church service. The Locus Hall is utilized for administration, uh, and various offices. But pag abot sa 5 o'clock sa hapon, these are spaces made available for graduate students, mga law students or graduate students who are taking night classes and who gets into the campus for schooling. And then, of course, the parking at the back of SBM is used for the PPO office when they have to load and unload materials for waste and whatnot para sa campus and materials for construction sa campus. So these are dedicated parking. In fact, kung moadto mo dapit sa Locust Hall sa Haggerty ba dili sa Balay sa Pari, what is that? Loyola House, the house of the where the residents of the priest are. Kita mo sa likod gid sa Locust Hall na space then ha that is dedicated for all presidents of the vice president of the school. So vice president for academics, vice president for administration, vice president for basic ed, etc. So I think there are 6 parking or 7 parking spaces for that. That's only dedicated for the vice presidents. So these are how you place parking in a given area so that you can accommodate not maybe everyone, but at least the ones who are using the facility. For those who are not part of the facility, pwede nimo siya bus ID, meaning temporary ID for parking inside the campus. For regular parkers in the campus, kaya important personnel sila, let's say they are directors or deans. So this one are given ID so that they have a more favorable parking space and slot because of their position in the office. Okay, then travel time and delay study. So travel time is basically the time you take for the trip or the duration for the entirety of the journey of a trip from start to end. Usually, travel time studies are based on a movement of fleet cargo and road users who takes time on the road. So usually the study is logistics, let's say from airport to destination, from seaport to destination, or from terminal of a bus to a destination, or even the journey of one person from home to an office. So these are related to travel time. And the delay incurred in between, pag biyahe mo, that's actually part of the travel time and delay study. So previously we discussed on spot speed, it's related to speed limit. So if you are the driver, you are limited with speed basically because the road that you're using has a certain regulation for speeding and therefore you have to follow the rules on the road. Now, somehow, if you are also the drivers, you are concerned with travel time because time is money and fuel cost is still money. So the economics of using the road and the route that you are using is translated to travel time and delay. Now, speed study or speed delay study are really important as well because if you're the driver, you want to get off from one point to the next point with respect to speed. So physics means speed is equal to distance over time, and distance over time is related to fuel and the engine. So therefore, as much as possible, if I am the driver, I want to make sure I get off from a location with a given speed so that I can arrive at a certain time. However, along the journey, we know fully that we encounter congestion, so must slow down akong speed. And if I encounter traffic signal light, red, yellow, and green, and unfortunately, naabtan ko sa red, so I have to stop. So those are related to speed delay study. So if you look at the graph on the side, you can see that most likely when we talk about delay, it's related to our speed, the vehicle that we're using, the location and the route, and the desired path is that location. The actual path is the option, maybe na kay route 1, 2, and 3, and then you have distance with respect to that route, and you also have delay, no? Kay kani nga route kay short kayo siya pero daghan intersection maabtan. And then tanay nga route, let's say taas kayo siya, layo siya, but walay sakyanan nimo ma-encounter kaayo plus wala pag traffic signal kaayo. So taas na ang distance. So you weigh the options from which you take your route o rutang imong agian para ka makaabot sa isa ka destination. So some studies, like for example in a survey of a highway, we do not want to have so much traffic delay. The more delay ang imong traffic, the more the economic value of the road and the system is very poor. So therefore, you do not deliver goods and services on time. you're not given logistics opportunities for them to arrive on time. So that's actually a a problem in the economics of using the road. So, in a broader sense of looking at things, umuulit ta sa hapon, usually ang atong thinking sa free flow drive, labi nag weekend, Saturday o Sunday, makaabot ka sa atong location very spread out to a given area because we arrive to that destination to a certain degree on time. But if it is a Monday evening towards the destination, so naamo tanan pagyapon sa road up sa 6 o'clock. Naglakaw ko sa opisina sa 5, napagyapon ko sa road at 6 o'clock because unfortunately naabtan ko sa congestion time. So this is more like the graph that you will be seeing, or the layout of the map where people are at 6 o'clock. Compare this 6 o'clock on a Sunday, for example. Now, logistics application, this is an issue when you are traveling with a route nga daghan kayo cargo involved. So this is congestion on a lane, outer lane, and this is a free flow traffic on the middle lane. Why is that? Because some destinations are particular with the given lane. So this is maybe going to the ports and harbor, this is going to Iligan. So katong sa ports, daghan gid kay siya karga, so payon sa port para ikarga sa transfer sa water. So therefore, mas daghan iyang trucks. But if you look at it in perspective, the economic value of delay is an issue to operators of freight and logistics application. Kasi it would mean it's either malugi ko at the end of the day or maginansya ko sa travels akong trucks and trailer nga negosyo. Now, for some delay can be sometimes a operational delay, meaning because na ay mga rehabilitation sa road, repair and maintenance and construction, or maybe an accident. So these are operational delay. Sometimes this happen when the road section is being made for a certain activity. So madelay ka tungod ani. And some of course kana mga fixed delay, mo na siya mga delay kanay traffic signal gyud, fix mo ng traffic signal. So normally okay ra makaabtan ka sa green, makalahos ka, but unfortunate gali ka maabtan ka sa red, then dili kalahos in sakyanan, so therefore maka-incur ka gid. So over time, in mapping out locations on roads and intersection, you kind of know asa man ko dapit mo agi para makagawas ko, then makaabot ko sa ako. But the option of the route really depends on the section of the road. Kung kanang road section is congested, and kung kanang road section daghan traffic signal stops and so forth and so on, that incurs delay. Now this is the situation when there are delays, kay na mga kanang traffic stop and go, kay na nag-overtake sa pikas lane. This is actually delay due to other vehicles on the road. This is delay usually because there is a stream flow delay. The overall concept of the na gid siya congestion, no, kay mag-queue na lang mo, then stop and go in yung traffic. So therefore, the delay is really related to speed. Now, ang usa ka ruta may be from route 1 to 4 on a road segment is really a stretch of a straight roadway, walay liko-liko. However, daghan traffic lights. So therefore, daghan ka delay by virtue of a red stop signal. Now, for example, in areas like Japan, Germany, France, and those countries na ay efficient transportation system made of light rail transit or MRT, metro rail transit, usually what they do is they make sure that the train arrives on time and takes off on time. So that means to say your travel time is very accurate, efficient, and then your delay is very low because usually railway have very low delay. In the case, for example, sa Japan, madelay lang ang usa ka train because naay mo jump pag suicide sa railway or because naay earthquake. So those are the only times nga mahinay gyud or dili ka arrive ang train on time. Seldom will you experience nga wala ka abot on time ang train because nadaot, no? Very seldom na siya nga-case. They have a perfect operation of train logistics in such a way that day in, day out, ang machine system sa railway and the technology are really efficient. However, circumstances would happen na naagi road accidents and then naay seismic tremor nga makapahunong sa railway operation. And that's the only thing really on time ang train. So I'll give you this example. Okay, usually this is what we do when we are traveling. No, we'd like to look at online kung sa akong option to take a ride. So it's I want to, if I am residing say for example in Shinjuku hotel area near Shinjuku, I'd like to go to Tokyo Teleport as a location. Tokyo Teleport is an area where there are car shows, museums, science fair. There's also a huge stadium for car racing. So those are the area for the Tokyo Teleport and shopping. So a lot of people will go from Shinjuku to Tokyo Teleport. If I want to travel on that area, the total travel time is actually 22 minutes. Now let's see. 22 minutes. If I take the express means to say I'll take a train. The express will be from Shinjuku until Tokyo Teleport without stopping in Osaka area. The 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 other option is I will take the what we call as commuter train. Commuter train would mean I will drive from Shinjuku and then this train will drop off load and unload passengers in Osaka station and then head for Tokyo Teleport. So that's two type of train, the express train and the commuter train. Now, if you have express, so normally express will take you 320 yen, and that's a straight express train. Now, share specific time. But for example, here this is commuter. You have only to pay 160 yen from Shinjuku to Osaka, and then Osaka to Tokyo Teleport. That's another 160, so you have 320 yen total. So if you want to go direct, that's express train, and it's a little bit more short travel time. But this is commuter. So the option that you have is to take the train at 2:06 p.m. So that you can arrive Tokyo Teleport by 2:18. Now the other option is you take the 2:17 p.m. nga slot of a train. That's the same. Then you can arrive at 2:29 in Tokyo Teleport area. So that's a very fixed train time, no? The option that you have is JR Cycle Line and Rinkai line of the train. So in sense, when you are in this particular application more accurate with your travel time, then more likely passengers will be using the train because they are more more confident that you are taking into consideration delay. And to some extent also, tourism will be boosted with the information that you really do not compromise your travel with respect to delays. So that way people will then option like, should I take the taxi? Should I take the bus? Or I'll better off take the train because it's more accurate and more reliable service in terms of application for tourists. Okay. Another consideration for travel time and delay is an intersection. So, for example, an intersection without traffic signal will have free flow movement. Ang imo lagi dani kay mag-slow down, you wait for people driving on right turn, left turn, and through uh, in an intersection. You have to be very cautious of your driving because wala traffic signal. But as you approach an area nga na traffic signal, syempre, you are really being stopped with a red. And then, ang imong speed is regulated. You have to slow down as you approach the intersection. So this is the operational system of looking at green, yellow, and red time for operation of traffic signal and how a vehicle will stop when there's a red and how it will get into the traffic center of the intersection as the signal goes to yellow and green. So this is more on intersection traffic signal analysis. So I will not discuss this right now in terms of calculation. Maybe sa CEM3, I will discuss traffic signal analysis and design with infrastructure for intersection application. For now, this is just an overview how you look at travel time and delay on a route, given ruta nga walay traffic signal o ruta nga naay traffic signal. Okay. So for travel time and delay, usually the survey is defined by travel time, running time, delay, operational delay, stop time, fixed delay, and travel time delay. So travel time is the overall journey na time. Running time is the journey with respect to the moving vehicle. Katong wala na stop na. That's the running time. Basically, when you run the engine, that's your running time. Delay are those times na ma-stop ka. And the delays can be either operational, meaning it's related to the road, na road maintenance, accidents, repairs, that's operational delay. Stop time delay is kung congested ang dalan and naay daghang vehicle nga nag-stop and go, so that's stop time delay. Fixed delay is related to traffic signal intersection or pedestrian in pedestrian crossing. So na mga pedestrian crossing nga na ay traffic signal gihapon, so ma-stop ka. Tapos intersection nga ma-stop ka. Those are fixed delay. And so travel time delay is the total travel journey with time, running time plus the delay. Okay, so what are the different types of survey for travel time? So the basic manual survey that we do is what we call as license plate survey. And one which is more non-manual is moving vehicle technique. So moving vehicle technique would only mean mag-simulate ka sa usa ka vehicle, mag-follow ka sa iyang journey para makuha nimo iyang travel time. Say for example, when we try to investigate a jeepney modernization program for Cagayan de Oro City, we look at mga jeepney traveling, for example, in Bugo to Pugon Market. The entire journey from Bugo to Pugon Market will be taken into consideration in terms of travel time and delay by means of a vehicle na nagsunod sa ka Bugor liners nga sakyanan. So nama say ruta route 1 and route 2. So let's take for consideration gikan sa Bugo, magsunod tag usa ka jeepney nga paingon og Pugon. So ato siyang sundan, kung stop siya, stop pud ta. Kung padayon siya sa journey, padayon ta. So sunod-sunod lang ta sa iya because that's simulating the driver sa jeepney sa iyang operation sa speed and stop na journey sa travel, no? So usually when we finish the survey, it would mean nakabalik siya sa iyang origin. So nag-start ta sa Bugo, sunod-sunod ta sa iya stop and go, kuha natin iyang log journey, what time siya nakaabot sa Lapasan, what time siya nakaabot sa Corrales, what time siya naabot sa Pugon, what time siya naabot sa balik sa Corrales, and then balik sa Bugo. Those are important elements of travel time delay. So when you do that, normally what you get is distance sa road and then time, so journey time. So what you get is speed as well. Speed, travel time, delay, and distance of the route. So that's for moving vehicle technique. To translate that in a manual survey, it would mean na you use the license plate method. License plate method would mean na kay tan-awon nga isa ka vehicle, kuhaon niyo iyang license plate number and imo siyang bantayan sa dalan. So for example, ikan sa Bugo, maghimo kag cordon point, mo ni siya imong marker, no, sa Bugo area. Mag-marker ka sa Corrales, then mag-marker ka sa Pugon. So somebody will be staying in Bugo, marker. Another one will be staying in Corrales, marker, and in Pugon, marker. So, kung ang Bugo na jeepney nga imong gisundan, imong gitan-aw is license plate, kuhaon nimo iyang license plate, and then tan-aw nimo iyang starting time sa Bugo, and then as a journey pa yung sa Corrales, bantayan to siya sa lain nga surveyor, then tan-aw niya ang time na nakalabay ni nga sakyanan with this license plate. So, and then kato na pong na-assign sa Pugon, bantayan na po ito niyang mo entry siya sa Pugon, and then with his license plate and what time siya nakasabot sa Pugon. And then back to Corrales, back to Bugo. What you're actually looking at here is the journey, entire journey nga time from Bugo to Corrales, Corrales to Pugon, Pugon to Corrales, and Corrales back to Bugo. So that's how you look at travel time and delay. Siyempre, we know fully along the journey sa ruta na mga traffic signal, na mga repair and construction sa road, na ay congestion time, labi na sa Pugon Market, and so forth and so on. So these are all taken into consideration sa journey sa usa ka sakyanan based on license plate method. Okay, so graphical chart can be made through a bar chart. So that is showing just how how people travel to work and travel time related when and the percentage when they have disability or something with autism. And then maybe look at areas of cities na daghan kaayo movement of traffic, and yet average travel time in a day is really very poor because at the end of the day ma-realize nimo na yung mga city nga grabe yung congested nga mga dalan. Nakoy city nga luag iyahang dalan and gamay ra ang tao sa kanan by volume, so therefore dili kayo congested yung road, and therefore they travel from home to work very appropriate with respect to the distance. But uban kay dili kay, like for example the city of Manila, pinaka-average travel time is 2 hours na siguro in each journey wherever you are. Sabi na kumaagi kag EDSA, no? And then more pag long distance pag ang trip, let's say from downtown Manila to Quezon City, it's a very long distance na trip. Then kung makongest pa ka, all the more. Sa regular Sunday from downtown Manila to Quezon City, it will take you mga 1 hour journey. More siya Cagayan to Iligan. But if mag-traffic na siya sa Monday sa gabi, Monday sa buntag, it will take you mga 3 hours of a journey. If you wake up early, you might avoid the traffic. If you get off late in work and then go to a more non-peak time, 10 o'clock, so medyo mingaw na ang dalan, so you can have a more leisure time to go home early. But if mo sabay ka sa traffic flow sa kanang peak hour traffic, and then si congested ka ang dalan, and you have longer travel time. Okay, so this is travel time in terms of calculation. So in a road segment, let's say from Bugo until Pugon Market. So ang starting point is Bugo, so 0 distance, 0 time, and 0 imong speed, and 0 imong mga stop. But along the journey, you get distance, travel time, speed, stop time, reasons for stop, kung napay traffic signal na abtan ka, average ni mga speed, ideal travel time, the delay incurred in that segment, and the net speed. Net speed would mean actual speed sa vehicle minus sa katong mga delay and speed limit, so that is net speed. This is a survey sheet for calculation of data for travel time and delay. Pwede man ka mag license plate, pwede po ka mag how to say this, car following technique, and pwede po ka mag onboard. So let's say nagpa-safe ka nga pasahero ka, sakay-sakay ka sa jeep from Bugo paingon sa iyang journey pabalik, imo lang ta nakaabot og lapasan ang nga time, nagdunong kay na nagnaog nga mga pasahero, na nisakay nga pasahero. So those things can be done on board. Survey can also be done. Ang dili lang siya maayo for the surveyor kay malipong siya, tuyok ang sakyanan, murag siya driver over time. Okay, so I think that the more appropriate lesson that we have for today, I think this is the last for lesson 5, is traffic signs, signals, and marking. Usually, signs, signals, and marking are used to control traffic movement on the road. So usually, signs are made as an information, a warning, a regulatory warning, or maybe a temporary signs. Those are really signs, no? Signals are related to something which has a communication line, power supply, and technology. So those are related to, for example, traffic signal light, red, yellow, and green, railway station traffic signal, and so forth and so on. Marking is really just painting on a pavement or on the wall. Maybe wall, ang uban is a wall kung sa tunnel ka. If you go through a tunnel nga roadway, na kay makita mga markings on the sides. These are really markings on the wall. And most of the time, it's markings on the ground or on the pavement. So usually we have 4 types. We have temporary traffic control. These are really related to signs, which are information, but really temporary lang siya. That's the reason why orange asahan. And then regulatory signs would mean naka-red. And then, of course, regulatory siya. So, any violation to regulatory sign is pwede ka i-penalize, a prison, or a nagpapabayad sa enforcer. Now, guide signs are really and pure communication information signs. And then, of course, warning signs is not regulatory. Giwarn lang kaniya that there are school zone ahead, there's a railroad ahead, and so forth. These are information to warn you about the road section ahead. Okay, so traffic signs and signals and marking. So this is signs and signals. Later we'll have signs and markings, and later signals. So this is a signal for a pedestrian crosswalk. Crossing pedestrian will use this section. This is continental design, and it would mean that this is the section for pedestrian movement and traffic. Now, the line in the median, which is yellow or double yellow, would only mean as marking that you are not to cross other side ng lane, opposing traffic. You cannot do counter flow, overtaking, or U-turn because it's regulated as yellow, double yellow line. It's not allowed. Broken white lines would mean there is a lane separation. So a lane on the outer and the inner lane is separated by this white broken line. Now the side white line on the roadside would mean that's the end of the travel lane. So the end of the travel lane would mean that's the section for vehicular traffic. So ang beyond that is already shoulder or pedestrian or sidewalk. Now this one, which is like a triangle line, this is actually yield sign. The reason butang siya is that i-inform niya ang motorist na yield or slow down because there's something ahead. So yield sign will just be warning, informing the driver to slow down your vehicle, slowly place in the brake so that you will be able to see ahead that there is a crossing traffic of pedestrian, etc. Now, the signs are regulated in yellow, that's warning, pedestrian crossing, and directional arrow is being placed. So forth and so on, that's important. If you cannot place in the pavement the white marking for the triangles, you can also place it on the side. No? This is yield sign, triangular nga red. This is now regulatory. So if you do not follow yielding here, and makot ka, kaya nakabangga and whatnot, dakun ka because there's a violation to an end. You're supposed to slow down, and so forth and so on. Okay. On the right, you can see a more detailed pavement marking. So this is a yellow bar line for motorists to slow down. Stop on this line because this double line is for pedestrian already. And then you have division of lane, broken white line. And then this is a segment of smaller broken line. You can enter on this lane provided your direction is going left turn on this side. So this is left turn lane, outer lane, and middle aisle lane. Okay, then this box would only mean this is a section should be clear zone area unless there is a vehicle. If there's no vehicle, you can cross. If there's a vehicle, you should stop. This is a main road, lapad iyang dalan. This is a side road, gabay ang dalan. So priority of vehicle is on the main road, secondary ang sa side road. So you have to wait to enter into the traffic sa main road. Now this is not with traffic signal, so therefore free-flowing ang traffic on this side. Now on the other side, on the right most, makita nimo nag-approach ang traffic signal. So this is more regulated. This is open traffic way, but you have to slow down because you have to respect other drivers on the road without the traffic signal. So you have to stop. So nakay stop sign on both sides. So far, na question?
None, ma'am.
Okay, so intersection study is another kind of application. This is only for any junction, no? 4-leg, 3-leg, and so forth and so on. In intersection study, we're not just studying the traffic signal, we're also looking at accidents on the road, especially sa intersection. So to avoid intersection accidents, we have to look at the design of the intersection in such a way we look at conflicts. So these points here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are points of conflict. Conflict, kung dili ma-mitigate, bangga. So accident. So an intersection is really prone to accidents. That's the reason na some intersection has to have a traffic signal. If not, kung dili siya kay mingaw siyang intersection, it can do away with that, but you have to slow down as you approach the intersection. Kasi sa intersection, we have what we call as merging, diverging, and crossing traffic. So these are merging, no? Merge, na diverge, and napoy gitawag crossing, no? Sa tunga, na mag-cross sila to each other. So similar sa usa ka four-leg, ang three-leg has also the same conflict, no? But mind you, in a four-leg, it's more an issue because sa leg pa lang dan makita nimo there are 32 types of conflict, vehicle to vehicle conflict. Sa pedestrian kay naman kay crosswalk, there are 16 pedestrian vehicle conflict. So unsang pag-arise sa conflict? Let's take into consideration just duha ka car on an intersection na four-leg. Car A is white, car B is blue. So car B would like to do right turn, and yet si car A will be moving through. So na siya conflict. So someone has to give way. Kung dili sila mag-give way, mabangga sila. And if kung may traffic signal ni siya, much better kay moingon lang ta nga green si A, stop si yellow, wait sa imong time. Now this is another one, left turn si yellow, right turn si A. Right turn si yellow, left turn si A. So it's another conflict, merging conflict. This is also merging conflict, left turn si white, left turn si yellow, right turn si white, so conflict. This is through and another left turn, so conflict. And then conflict sa through, and conflict sa merging. Now, ang mention ako ganina, merging, depende kung sa dako imo road. Let's say this is a minor road, this is a major road, lapad iyang lane, no? So, kung lapad iyang lane, siya man ang mo-merge, siya ang magkulat sa yellow. Una ang yellow kay through man siya. So, it's always the through which is given priority, followed by any left turn or right turn. Okay, comparing two designs of infrastructure, if you're gonna use four-leg or a four-leg nga rotonda. In a rotonda, gamay ra imong conflict. Conflict is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Why is that? Because rotonda doesn't have a left turn or a right turn. In fact, what you're doing is just move with the traffic stream. Ang imong through murag right, ang imong through mura og right turn only. So ang left turn minimal kaayo. So what you can do here is design a very good rotonda if you want to avoid traffic for motorist safety. However, rotunda is expensive in a way because it will take space because it's circular area. And usually it's because sa atong mga land use and design of a network of roads, ang atong mga road systems are junction in corner sa street. Corner na. Rectangular man na to isa ka block. Kaya mga building kay rectangular man gyapon. So definitely ang design dayon sa junction is mahimong rectangular pod, which is the intersection as a junction. In a park area or an open space area, usually wala kay building, so therefore wala kay restriction sa curve, no? Kay open imong curve area for a certain radius of rotation sa usa ka vehicle on a rotonda. So thereof, mas viable maghimo ka og circular rotonda intersection. Okay, this is traffic signal design for intersections. We have this as a signal timing control using a software. This could be done manually, no? We can design this one, we call it is facing movement. And ang facing movement, kana siya, each movement is basically translated to the traffic sa red, yellow, and green. So, kisay unang mulahos, kisay sunod, So it's just movement through left and right turn combination. Two assigned red, yellow, and green. I will not explain this. This is more traffic signal design and will be handled in a professional subject. Okay, so evaluation of road conflict in an intersection. Usually we look at Kanibanga Road is a small collector road or a big highway. Because if it's a big highway, we have to place a lot of things, pavement markings, island structure, right turn movement, channelization, yeah, marking signs on the pavement, sidewalks, also signal timing, and then we have also pavement signs, markings, and signals. Now, we also look at sa evaluation kung nabay conflict ang usa ka pedestrian with vehicular traffic because that's an issue. And then, of course, we assign movement para safe ang pedestrian mo cross sa intersection. So, these are just evaluation for traffic flow. So far, na question?
Ma'am, katong
Hmm.
signal, katong application na signal traffic control, ma'am ba?
Hmm.
Ato ni mo na, kuan, ma'am.
Kani?
Pangayon, tanan ako. O kana, ma'am.
Dito na siya sa second semester. Dili siya sa first sem. First sem kay kuaman siya. We have sustainable urban planning pa siya. So after ana, muna dahil ng traffic signal. Kani siya.
Sige,
This will require mga 2 to 3 weeks na lesson kasi we'll have the introduction sa facing signal, then we'll have practice on how you do the design, and then actual na dayon siyang calculation.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Dili na ko siya incorporate karon kay lisod siya, makaon siya og time. Okay. Wala na question? Okay, so I'm more or less done with the different survey. I'll just introduce speed controls. Okay, last na lang dahil siya para makarest na. I'll take just about 25 minutes lang. So this is lesson 6 on level of service and speed control concepts. So the rest, I will allow you just to read it on your own. Kaya hindi na ako ma-explain tanan in detail. But the supporting documents will have all the information for you to read. So again, we go back to the factors, demand, supply, and the planning for transportation engineering application. And then the different surveys that are done. Usually, kaning nga mga survey good is the vital or very essential elements for us transportation application. So we did have parking study a while ago, and then we did also travel time delay and signs, signals, and marking. Mind you, this is the only part na daghan kay mo memorize on, no? Signs, signals, and marking. And then we did discuss ang intersection study. Okay, so now we go to level of service. Usually, ang dalan has a measurement for the quality of service that it's serving the given infrastructure. So, for example, ako lang ipakita din, this is a very congested road and this is a very light road. So, this is a congested road in terms of density. So, density sa atong physics is mass over volume. So, the mass will be the road lanes and the size of your road. And then the volume is the vehicle that is traveling on the road.
Ma'am, wala naka-share screen, ma'am.
Ay, wala naka-share screen? Isa ka. Thank you, kaayo. Okay. Okay, sige. Kana okay na?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Monica ganina, no? So, we discussed this a while ago. Okay, so level of service, LOS. So, level of service is a grado sa dalan. It's mainly a measure of road quality of service. Describes the operation congestion. So, din ang operation is congested. This is not congested. So, the condition of traffic flow is congested. And this is very efficient and effective road system. So if you compare road network in terms of level of service, you do not include safety. Walay labot ang accident study, ang separate study ang accident. It's really serbisyo sa dalan. So it does not include safety. And if your road has a different type, for example, yung imong road kay highway compared to barangay, collector, or local roads, each have different level of service. Kay ang highway, lahi siya og design, ang barangay road lahi design, so dili siya parhag level of service. Rather, I would say nga ang level of service is mura og bag. Kung magbutang kag isa ka bag, nakay bag, nga imong bag sundan nimo apples. So you can only, a bag can only hold a capacity of apples, let's say more than 10 kilograms of apples in a bag. Otherwise, kung dili na siya makontain sa usa ka bag, mabungkag imong bag, ma-burst. Kaya dili siya enough ang capacity with respect to the volume of the apples. And it's the same with the road. If you are designing road in terms of number of lanes, because the lanes will accommodate the number of vehicles on the road, so capacity is based on the lanes and the size of the road. And so barangay road is really different from a highway road. So therefore, dahil po siya og measurements sa level of service. No? So level of service are measurements from A to F. And it's similar to your grade sa academics, no, na kay grade A if you're performing well, grade F if you're not performing well. So similarly sa road, if it's not doing quality service, so it's F. If it is a road na quality ang service, then it's a level of service A. So a freeway, we know fairly na ang freeway is a free-flowing traffic, walay mag-merge and diverge because the entire road network is close to other side roads. And then freeway does not have so much speed limit, so it's a free road. Walay tollway, so that's a free road. So therefore, normally what you're expecting in a freeway na road is the level of service A. Smooth akong pagbiyahe kay wala ko'y problemahon sa dalan. It's really a free road. Freeway ang akong speed road. So the basis of a level of service is basically the traffic density, that's mass over volume. Now, level of service of a road network can be done with certain type of road, maybe arterial, highway, maybe a freeway, expressway, and so forth and so on. Pwede po siya sa intersection, no? Measurement of intersection level of service, if the intersection is serving well or not, no? Mahibawaan man nimo ang intersection wala nag-serve well kay taas kay nakapila sa red. And then pag green, gamay ra ang na-serve. So napay nabilin nga ikog ng mga sakyanan sa red. Naabtan sa second round nga green. So that's not performance of an intersection traffic signal which is good, no? Something's wrong with traffic signal design there. Okay, so ang first level of service A is free-flowing operation of traffic. So headway, back sa sakyanan to the front of the other vehicle is long. So walay room for any conflict of accidents because really the road is open. I have a free-flowing traffic of my speed. Wala ko'y problema of other vehicle on the lane. I could shift from middle to inner lane to outer lane. Kasi maneuver is very easy. Ang B is that nagsunod sa ako, so I am free moving on a given road with a given speed, but I'm more conscious nga naay sa likod. So I will be careful kung mag-speed up ang kaninga car, paingon sa anang lane kung mag-transfer kog lane. So I'll be looking more on the side view mirror, no? Because although it's a very good road with a good level of service, but maneuver is actually restricted, particularly kung mag-change ko og lane sa anang section. Now, level of service C, usually na naka sa limit sa imong free flow nga speed. So, ang speed dinhi is regulated almost because na kay mga ma-encounter nga vehicle nga gamove from one lane to the next, and therefore you have to be very careful with your speed. Sometimes also naka-queue sa imong likod, no? Nakapila, but nagyapon may headway nga taas, so it's okay. Safe pagyapon ka kay spacing man overheadway ang inyong sakyanan. And there's no blockage at all. This can overtake to the middle lane provided magbantay siya aning vehicle and so forth and so on. Now, sa level of service B, there is already a slight decline of speed. You have to be careful on the road. Your speed may be regulated na because there's some vehicle in front of you, on your back, and on your side. Kung naka sa middle lane, you have to look at all vehicles on your side and on your front. So, freedom to maneuver is very limited. And then, possibly, kung na mag-change ang lane, tendency mag-queue ang one vehicle sa likod. And then, of course, manotice ninyo, dagdag-daghan na sakyanan sa dalan, and ang emong headway is already shortened or narrowed. Okay, level of service E. Sa E, you have a very visual nga queue, no? Nakapila. So, kung muhunong niya siya, so mabangga ni sa tanan, magpila, manggod. So, this is already level of service E. And so, therefore, usually, dili na ka move sa laing lane because maneuver is restricted, speed is restricted, and there's a lot of vehicles already on the road, particularly sa imong lane. So, it's almost to the capacity. Now, what's happening with F? F is demand of vehicles, volume, is greater than supply. Kulang ra ang lane to accommodate a lot of vehicles on the road. So, this is a breakdown in flow. Kung ang usaan ni mabangga, kung ang usaan ni madautan, tanan sa likod, mapiktahan. There's already a queue. So, this is level of service F. Okay. So, as you go through the level of service from A to F, no, level of service at horizontal, you notice na ang speed nimo munaog. Kasi in A, your speed is high, but as you go to E, your speed drops down. Until F, imong speed is actually very slow because you're moving with all vehicles already in the traffic stream. So you have to really slow down. So because the capacity is equal to the demand, so it's almost greater than 1. Kung 1.5 na, it would mean number of vehicles is higher than your capacity of the lanes. So this is the volume capacity ratio, or S. The volume over capacity. Kay constant and a constant, that's the equation for level of service. Okay, so this is a simplified tabulation of what we discussed a while ago with respect to speed and volume capacity ratio. What is done is that to avoid a lot of F on the road level of service, what we do is make an infrastructure which will allow segregation of traffic. And this is where traffic engineering comes in with transportation analysis and management. So this is a case where ang imong road network is really divided. This is divided traffic with respect to this middle island. And then, ang iyong paging layer is upper section, lower section, and then, possibly mo nang gitawag na skyway, no? And this is the development of freeway with ramps. Kaya nung doon mo sa ang topic on interchange, okay, this is where interchange comes in. To avoid so much congestion, na tanan na lang road network is level of service F, you can segregate traffic flow. So this is going to the city, okay, urban area. So pag abot sa urban, daghang kisakyan ang kasulod. This is going away from the city, maybe to a town, province, or village. So there pag may ra ang sakyanan. And this is maybe traffic going to outside the city, but going to an airport or seaport area. So therefore, daghan ang moving traffic paingon ani nga locations because a lot of people will be traveling. So this is segregation of traffic by level of service in a freeway condition. Okay, then we have level of service in terms of pedestrian. So pedestrian is applicable for pedestrian walkway, overpass, crosswalk, sidewalk, stairway, and then crossing sa intersection. No? So, pedestrian level of service, PLOS, is defined by this concept. No? Sometimes, ang number of pedestrian on the road is higher than the number of vehicles on the road. So, you have to allocate more intersection crossing application. So, this is an example kung sa buntag, mingo ang traffic, pag abot sa hapon, dagan ka ay yung traffic flow. Okay, pedestrian level of service, you have the design. So, nice space requirement, ang usa ka tao will have level of service A kung ang iyahang movement will be enough space area on the blue side, no? So, ang person next sa iya is away from the blue, so dako siyang space ng area. So, kani nga space area is the comfort zone for pedestrian walking on the street. Kay kung depende, ang imong pag-walk, kay depende man kataas sa imong legs, no? So, definitely, kung European kataas imong legs, so, morning enough nga tikang nimo para ka maka-move sa isa ka crossing area. Now, daw di kung madto ka sa B, that is a green line. So, this is a more restricted area. Maybe nanay mga tao sa kilid nimo, in front, nimo, and it's occupying almost to the limit of your green. But that is level of service B. And then you go down to level of service F. So, akong area will just be the maroon section. Somebody will be shoulder to shoulder with me at front, back, and side. So, that's already a very limited space. And that's an issue when you try to walk because di nakaka-walk og tarong kay restricted naman imong space for walking. So, this is how we do design for pedestrian crosswalk, no? A certain square of an area is dedicated for moving pedestrian with given space requirement, similar to this. So, the moment mudaghan ang tao sa isa ka space, the moment congested siya, that becomes a level of service, PLOS of F. So, this is the design of the crosswalk. The volume is dependent on the crossing pedestrian on the side sa curve, no? Sa high, mabot na siya 100, kung peak hour, sa high, 20 ra, kung non-peak hour. So, therefore, enough ang imong i-design nga width at sa the lane for pedestrian crossing. And butangan nimong island para siya maka-rest before siya maka-maneuver to the other lane because at least kaning island will take care of the safety of pedestrian. So this is how we look at PLOS in terms of speed. From A, ang iyang A nga space is 13 square foot. But as we go to F, it is just 2 square foot. So, it's like duha ka roller na square ang area. Mo na imong matindugan. Kay platoon naman siya. Daghan na kayo mo sa isa ka space. Now, in terms of speed, ang imong speed is about 260 feet per minute pag A. But as you go down to F, limited imong space. Average name is only less than 150 feet per minute. So, this is how you look at this in 3D perspective. Level of service A and level of service F. So the density is based on the space area of a cross section of a crosswalk and then the number of people who will be accommodated sa isa ka space area, width and length of the road cross section. So this is an example of a crossing intersection where the traffic is really heavy because this is moving traffic sa road and this is moving traffic sa railway. This part here, kanang na 3, kung makita niyo sa ubo, sa south side, ani, very adjacent to this curve, kaning yellow curve, is really the train station at Shibuya. So this is the railway. So din nga side sa south ang iyahang station nga daho nga building. So the moment na moabot nga train, expected mudaghan ang tao mo gamit sa intersection dinhi. So that's the reason na kaning intersection mas daghan ang pedestrian compared sa volume of vehicles on the intersection. So as you notice, the width of the crosswalk is really large and long, and yet also na siya provision sa diagonal nga crosswalk so that it could still accommodate traffic. So what happens is that when people cannot really stay on the crosswalk, what they do is get outside of the crosswalk just to cross, no? Kung mag-signal, stop ni siya o red for a vehicular traffic, red, 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 red. That's the entire section being open to pedestrian walking. Okay. So then we go to traffic calming devices or methods and devices. So, vehicle mag-speed sa dalan. So, therefore, kung concern is safety. So, from the word traffic calming, it will slow down traffic. So, usually in a village area or residential area, ang usa ka road network is very unsafe for children crossing or residential kanay mga car nga private mag-cross sa road. What you can do for this space is do intervention. Traffic calming device, butangan nimo island, i-narrow nimo ang section para mo slow down gid ang vehicle before siya mosulod sa entry sa subdivision. So this is an island control. This is a narrowing of the road. So duha ka island imong ibutang para ang lane ma-divide and therefore mo slow down gid ang sakyanan. The other one is you can do something like this, no? Ang lane mismo gi-occupy not an island but extending ang imong sidewalk so that magamay imong road network sa usa ka subdivision. These three will actually help control speed of vehicle on a subdivision and thereof ensuring safety of the residents in the given area. So the first example is a choker. So kung choker ka, gamayon nimo ang kilid sa dalan by width. So this is a choker. This is a mid-block, pero para ang mga sakyanan dili mag-speed up dinhi, i-extend nimo ang sidewalk and then butagan nimo siya og crossing pedestrian marker. That way, pag manaro ang space, mo slow down ang vehicle. So this is similar to this concept. Roadblock. Mid-block, sorry. Okay, this is another one. And then another one here. So, gichoke mo ang usa ka width sa lane, sa travel way, so that mas slow down ang vehicle nga mosulod ani nga section because ang iyahang travel lane is nagamay ang width. The other one is what we call as road closure, or sa mga French, they call it cul-de-sac, end of the roadway. So, end of the roadway would mean dili nakasulod ang sakyanan. So, they have to really slow down because there's no other way except to do U-turn and whatnot. So, example here is a cul-de-sac. A four-wheel vehicle is not allowed to get inside this park road area. Instead, what can get inside is actually cyclists and motorcyclists because the road is already enclosure from four-wheel vehicle traffic. Another one enclosure is something like this. It may be good for walking pedestrian and cyclists, but certainly not for our four-wheel vehicle coming into this other side of the lane. And this is also another one, very choke, na siya'y barrier, na pagid siya'y choker. So, you can only move on this area section. So, expected, that's the dead end of the road for our regular vehicular traffic. What you can have here is just motorcyclists, walking pedestrian, and bicyclists. So, the same here. No? So, it's important to realize that you can actually design infrastructure to improve the safety of an area by virtue of traffic calming devices and methods. Then you have a raised intersection. Some intersection, magdali-dali ang driver, beating the red light, so mabangga. And then, of course, daghan kay accident mahitabo sa usa ka intersection. Right turn, left turn, and through. What you can do is really slow down the traffic because you raise the intersection. So, the mid-section sa intersection, naka-elevate. So, kung mag-speed up ka na, mo-jump man na imong sakyanan, karera imong brake. So, you really have to slow down. And notice na dayon triangle yield sign. Yield sign already tells us that you have to slow down. Sometimes, concrete asphalt. Kung concrete ni siya, asphalt ni siya. So, this is rubberized. Lulot ba na imong hang ligid na kay asphalt man siya gamay compared sa regular concrete na mo speed. So, you have to slow down. This one is painted with red tile. At red tile siya nga section, elevated intersection. And then this is residential area. And yet sloping ang terrain. So usually, inani nga area, daghan kay mag car race or sa tawag ani para sa asa man ang area? Claveria na mag daredevil riding of motorcycle on this side. So if this happens nga na kay tiled area na mo slow down gid ang cyclist dinhi kay lisod man siya magdiretso. Rubberized siya. This one is tiled elevated. So you can raise the intersection, elevate gamay para ang driver mo slow down. Then you have raised, sorry, this is not raised intersection, this is raised crosswalk para sa pedestrian. Okay. So, similar to intersection, kabalo manggid ka nga ang pedestrian will be haphazardly vulnerable to moving traffic on a crosswalk. So, normally sa mga school zone area, gawa sa sign and marking sa crossing, naapagid siya elevated area para ang car mo slow down gid siya kay mo slight change man ang pavement. So, this is a way to improve the safety of pedestrian walking on the area. Gawas i-elevate with very vivid nga pavement marking for yield and crossing. You can also do tiling, brick tile, para gyud mo slow down ang vehicles sa section of the road. That way, safe ang pedestrian. So this black section here, kaning black, is actually rubberized or elevated before the actual crossing. And then ay mga yield sign and stop line para sa motorists. Another one is a traffic circle. So kabalo gid ta nga mga sakyanan mag-speed up kung walay traffic signal ang usa ka road network, no? So to stop that, to ensure nga mo slow down ang driver, butangin sa tunga og circle. A very small rotonda, so usa ka small nga road, no? It's not really a huge rotonda, it's a very small one. So this can be done sa mga residential area so that vehicular traffic will be regulated in terms of speed, no? And then after mga signage yield to improve on the road safety. So these are example of traffic circle. Dili good huge rotonda but very small traffic circle. And then you have refuge island. So you can place traffic island so that aware kay ang pedestrian nga police na crossing pedestrian ahead kay na may island and napagyoy pedestrian crossing. So with the signage, the infrastructure na elevated island, napag-yellow pavement signs and markings, for sure the driver will see ahead this is a pedestrian zone area. And that area can also be made use as tourism park or resting area for those who are walking pedestrian. No? So in this case, na siya bench sa island. Makes it more aesthetically nice and wholesome to look at kung mag-drive ka along this road area because you're very aware pedestrian traffic is moving on this area. This is also this island, no? Dili siya elevated, and then papered siya kay ang section din is elevated ang island, and yet this is already just flattened. You can see this an example sa Kugon area. Nice section diha nga bakbak din nila ang island para lang yun dili na maglisod ang pedestrian saka na og sa ramp but rather naka-lower na siya nga section sa road. It's continuing passage for crossing pedestrian. So this is similar to this one also. And this one. Okay. Another means to regulate traffic flow is when you have diagonal diverter. So if you have an intersection nga dili na kaayo siya safe for crossing motorists and pedestrian because pirmi na accident on the road, what you can do is block that section and make it as a diagonal diverter. This way, you can manage traffic flow in such a way na rerouting ang mahitabo karon sa dalan. And this one, the diagonal being used, magamit siya for pedestrian nga crossing. So this is how you look at it, no? So isa ka section sa roadway here is a road network sa section sa main road or highway. And this is the section nga na ay mga residential na. Over time, if an area is a commercial center and slowing becoming a residential area, you can really improve the setting or the infrastructure design of the area by means of slowing traffic movement of motorists and then giving more passage for pedestrian traffic, walking pedestrian and cyclists. Then we have channels or channelization. So I made mention before that we place in channels road marking signs and infrastructure so that moving traffic will be slowing down and be guided kung asa lang sila move. So when you place channel, boulders and whatnot, or colors or road markings, tendency is the driver will fairly slow down because mutanaw siya sa marking ni siyang na ay something ahead because the marking is already channeling me to a better path. So that way, slowing traffic and motorists will be guided and accidents will be mitigated. Then we have barriers. To an extent, kung gahay gyud ulo or kailangan gid siya i-guide og tarong ang driver, you place infrastructure, dili lang siya channelization by pavement markings, no? You have to place something nga mo guide saya. So these are fixed barriers, no? Naa siya kanang holes para i-concrete sa concrete nga barrier. So these are what we call as LCD. LCD are vertical barriers that will guide motorists on the road, no, sa iyang traffic flow. Labi na kung the road section is prone to accidents because of high speeding vehicles, as well as if the road is new and drivers have to be guided first on the road network. The other one is bigger in size. This is more for really big arterial highways. We call this Jersey barrier. So makita nimo ni ginabutang sa RTA if they have to improve the road channelization during peak time sa Carmen, Rotonda, and so forth sa highway. So these are blocks of plastics which are guiding traffic with a yellow and orange painting. This will guide them to the road network so that they will really follow the channeling of traffic when there is a road construction, when there's a division between truck and regular motorists on one side, if there are road section that has to be channeled because na improvements o sa widening of the road and etc. So these are Jersey barriers. Okay. The other one is traffic cones. Kung may accidents, repairs, and maintenance of the road, traffic cones are used to guide a motorist in sections or road sections na ay temporary slowing down of traffic in terms of speed because there's a road section being repaired or there's a construction ahead. And then we have K markers, or what we call as corner markers. Corner markers with a K. So usually sa island, no, ang driver sa gabi dili ka bantay mo ning edge of the island. So what they do is place this T line or I marker so that it will guide motorists in the evening. This is the edge of the pavement, and then this is the curve of the island. Usahay mi man na siya kay mabanggaan sa driver na ang isa ka section bisan naka-yellow na siya na sige kami kay wala nakabantay sa driver sa gabi nga edge man siya. So you place in there K markers. And then we have delineators. Delineators are barriers which are metal and fixed barriers. Usually sa gabi mo flare of light. This is yellow and then sometimes orange. This will guide motorists on a road network na heavy ang traffic at the same time na ay very unsafe curve or na ay mga area nga dili pwede masudlan because this is dedicated area. So these are delineators. And then we have bollards. Bollards are division barriers. So kung this is the travel lane and this is the sidewalk for the cyclist and pedestrian, walking pedestrian, so you can place in there bollards. Sa mga school zone area or terminals, this is a bollard. Metal siya nga framing. This is bollards on a residential commercial area. Bollards on school zone area. No? Sa curve sa school zone ay mga bollards para kung naay errant nga bus or mga vehicle nga gagmay, dili diretso makaigo sa traffic sa pedestrian on the sidewalk, but rather the bollards will protect the moving pedestrian. Okay. Sa park kani siya, usually sa park, and then this one is movable bollards, similar to this one. And then ang kasagara gid kay fixed bollards. And then you have guardrail delineators. So this is the barrier on a channel, longitudinal barrier on a road network. So kung mga kurbada, you have that barrier. But the guardrail is delineators is this one, no? Mga vertical nga i-attach nimo sa imong barrier so that at night time musiga man ni siya, makita nimo ang roadway curve. And then of course napagyapon ka yellow line to guide the motorist nga di nakataman. This is already the shoulder, clear zone, and the road network end of the roadway. So usually makita nimo sa mga airport, nani sila sa mga highway nga wala kayo suga, kani ang ginagamit nila. And then raised pavement markers. So I think kita na mo ani nga mga markers sa gabi mo siga na siya blue light, yellow or red. This is guiding the path of the median center line na binagili flower sa gabi ang yellow markers sa pavement na siyang metal plate mo sigam ni siya sa gabi. So this is raised pavement markers. Okay, so far na question.
None atang.
So I'll end the lesson here. I'm expecting to see you then on Friday for our lesson number 7. Ano ba ko 7? Yeah, pavement signs, signals. Nana mo dugang sa inyong lesson. Please submit to Michelle your assignment for the day and then expect next week, sometime on Thursday, I'll give you an assignment, exercises for next week.
Ma'am,
Hmm.
ma'am, ang katong kuan ma'am link sa exercises kay isend lang nako dito sa kuan ma'am chat na send kanina.
O kanang imong ginabuhat dito sa ako permanente mish. Okay na po adto.
Okay.
Wala kay kuan ako Zoom no?
Wala ma'am.
Kung ayaw na lang dito sa kuan sa side, butang nilang sa email para mahimo na tong fix na ano, link every time na ato'y assignment. Okay na, Mish?
Okay.
Okay. Sige. So, I'll have the attendance muna before we go. Kay, i-close na po. Stop. Mish, palihog ko sa attendance for the day. Okay. So, we're 20. So, walay absent. Na yung nag-message. Okay, katulang ganina to nawala ko sa screen. Okay, Mish, okay na? It's okay, ayaw na lang ikuha ng camera, okay ra na siya.
Manama.
Thank you, Mish. See you everyone on Friday.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.